Follow the money.
That's what I always say. You always follow the money.
Yeah.
This is Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Paulie Howard on VSiN.
Here we go. Welcome in. It is Follow the Money on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Mitch Moss along with Mike Paulman for the vacationing Paulie Howard this week. We're live in downtown Las Vegas from the Circa Resort and Casino. Busy 3-hour program lined up today. Great guest. How about Nick Bogdanovich in studio today? As he is going to be teaming up with others to introduce a new sports book in Las Vegas and in Nevada. He's going to be on the show in 30 minutes, formally right here at Circa.
A couple of years he put in here.
Sure.
And we're excited for his new adventure, obviously, and he'll tell us all about it.
Yeah. Paul Stone, best bets on the AAC in college football in 90 minutes. Back into the program, Uncle Lou Finocchiaro, UFC 317 best bets. We'll get into a little bit of what took place last night with the draft. Obviously, it's been rehashed to death today, but I think DraftKings is offering a couple of fun bets for Cooper Flagg this year we'll talk about. And we'll go heavy with baseball, and it's a busy day card today. In fact, every game is in action with the exception of Atlanta and the Mets. That one starts at 7:10 Eastern time, and coming up in about 30 minutes, I believe. This delay has been going on forever in Minnesota. I believe that's first pitch for the Mariners and the Twins. But there is an absolute doozy going on right now in Houston between the Astros and the Phillies. Great pitching matchup on paper, and it's absolutely lived up to it. How about this? Christopher Sanchez is having a terrific season for the Phillies. ERA on the year, currently, real time, 2.79. He has pitched 6 innings so far in this game. He's allowed 4 hits with 1 earned run. He has struck out 11 Astros, and he's trailing because Hunter Brown has been magnificent yet again. He is through 7 strong, 3 hits allowed, and that's it. 9 strikeouts, 96 pitches. Do they bring him back for the 8th here? He has a 1.74 ERA on the year, and that's your guy. You bet him 20-1 early
20-1 on Hunter Brown in mid-May.
So is there anything at this point, we're coming on here at 4 o'clock Eastern time, anything live that you would still look at this game, or have you just been pounding this contest pretty much all day?
I need all versions of the under. So if this game has 3 runs or less, I scoop 4 bets.
You can go over 3.5 right now plus money.
Can I?
Yes, you can.
Maybe I should do that. That's my lowest total.
Now, if this does go to Hader, though, at some point, who came into the game yesterday, right? But he's having a terrific season. Now, the Phillies bullpen is the one I think you have to worry about, but this is also going on 3 straight games. Are the Phillies not going to score a run in this whole series?
They stopped scoring in Space City. I mean, you could argue you got Frambert and you got Brown.
Well,
explain yesterday.
You can't.
I mean, they're like Kansas City. They can't score.
These are supposed to be the days of summertime, right, where the ball is flying out. And we have a stat coming up in about 10 minutes I think will knock your socks off as it happened. Something happened yesterday in baseball 7 times, tying the record for second most ever. And it's happening again today, which is just alarming to me. The Phillies to come back to win this game, they're plus 540. The problem with this is that the Astros bullpen is one of the best in all of baseball. They have a 3.21 ERA and a 1.13 WHIP. That's the second best. The Phillies pen on the flip side, they have a 4.63 ERA and a 1.38 WHIP. So I have no interest in betting Philadelphia, a team that suddenly cannot score, to come back and tie this game.
I just took over 3.5 plus 135. Mitch.
You did?
Yes.
Okay, so then you bet before the game under
7.5 and 6.5.
And then you added all
5.5,
other
4.5,
numbers.
3.5 as the game went on.
And this is because you were watching the game and you're like, these pitchers are absolutely elite today. And I don't
striking everybody out
Yeah.
to begin with. I mean, Sanchez was a foul tip away from his 12th strikeout before the double let off the bottom of the 7th, and he's done now. So the Phillies are into their pin. But yeah, at least I protect the bottom rung there.
Yeah, sure. The Astros just moved to minus 1,000 to win the game. So leadoff double, you said?
Yeah, leadoff double.
Here. Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. Catching up with us right now. This is something with the live betting here. The Rays are playing the Royals right now. And to your point of how Kansas City, I mean, this has been, and I think it was Shane Baz who just got out of it. He did. So he was facing the Kansas City lineup. He was going to go through it for the third time, right? And a couple of guys just got on for the Royals. In fact, the inning went ground out by Bobby Witt, but then it went single. So guys were on first and second with only one out. And the numbers on Shane Baz the third time through the order, 9.39 ERA on the year, 8.36 FIP, 2.09 whip, and a 31+% hard hit rate. I thought maybe it was the time to bet, and then it was lining up that way. But a double play ended the inning, so the Rays move on to the eighth now with a 4-0 lead. And we're talking about like betting this stuff. Maybe you can, bet the specific team to score a run. Like in this case, it would have been the Royals to score a run in that inning because it's a third time through for Baz. He's only at 80 pitches. Would you bring him back out for another inning?
I don't know why not if he's only at 80. He hasn't thrown many high leverage pitches outside of that inning if you followed this game. They got to the lead. He's been pretty comfortable here. I would think you would, although, Cash is going to go on his plan. But this Tampa Bay continues to be cheap road favorite in these games and well worth betting. Again, last night, Rasmussen with a gem.
Yeah, again, he's having a great season. The Cubs are leading the Cardinals right now by a score of 2-0. They're playing in the top of the seventh inning. Cubs open about $135, closed at 140 in that neighborhood. It was Shota Imanaga going today. He went 5 innings. It allowed him to throw 77 pitches, 1 hit, 1 walk, 3 Ks, no earned. Great bounce back here from Imanaga coming off the IL. And the Cubs now clinging to that 2-0 lead over St. Louis. Now, with that guy back, by the way, and Michael Boyd, much to your chagrin, was very good again last night for the Cubs.
Night.
Awesome. That's a pretty healthy 1-2 combo, and Taillon hasn't exactly been awful this season for the team either.
Hasn't been great either.
Okay.
You know they're going to have to add arms here, the Cubs.
Yes.
You're going to need starters. But this is a great sign if Imanaga can come back and replicate anything like that 15-3 campaign he had last year.
Yes, exactly right. And now another game that just started in the last 20 minutes in San Francisco. Miami is leading the Giants by a score of 3-0. They're playing in the top of the second. That's it. They got 3 in the first off of Birdsong. And this Giants pen, as we talked about yesterday, leading into that Logan Webb game, best in baseball. Not exactly last night. Did not go well for the team. They lost. They gave up 8 runs overall in the game and went to extra innings. And they are on the verge of getting swept here by the Marlins, something that I definitely did not see coming. And here's another one for you. Before this series started, the Giants were in play, right there in the mix, to have the most wins in the month of June. Great market that's available here at Circa and a couple of other books. And now falling on their faces like this, and teams like Houston don't lose, they're not even in the conversation anymore.
Well, you had assumed they were going to won 2 or 3 games in this series, right?
I think when you made the bet, you were assuming that.
Yeah. The thing early last night was they made Webb work. It was at a high pitch count early in that game, and you saw he couldn't even come out for the 7th there, even though he had only given up the 2 runs, and it was 2-2 at that point.
That's right. Atypical for his performances at home, specifically at night, that we talked about quite a bit on the show. And the Dodgers are playing at Coors, and this total moved from 11.5 at some books, closed 12.5 at some, so a full run with the move. It's Kershaw versus Gomber today, and it's a pitching duel. It's 1-1 top of the 5th. Gomber has been fine. 4 hits, 1 earned, 1 K, 1 walk. That's it. They have a home run from Doyle. The Dodgers, basically it's Mookie Betts with an RBI in this game. And Kershaw, you know what? Kershaw's been pretty decent, Mike. Now, is that going to be something that you can rely on once this team makes the playoffs? I would say that feels improbable. But today at Coors, through 4 innings, 3 strikeouts, 1 walk, 1 earned. He allowed that home run to Doyle like I talked about, but that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the Kershaw we've come to know and love. He's got an xFIP 4.33, right? I mean, when he was the most dominant pitcher in the game over that stretch of years. But certainly the first 3 or 4 starts, he was having trouble getting anybody out.
Right.
And he settled down. And to the point, he's 3-0. He wasn't even saddled with a loss in those games, although his Ks per 9 are about 6.5, so way down off of his career averages. Yamamoto throws 5 shutout innings last night.
Goes to the
and then the rain, so he doesn't come back out. Yep. Our new NFL betting guide comes out on Tuesday, July 1st, and early access means a better shot at spotting value in future markets before the lines move. Now's the perfect time to join with our football special. Yes, that's right. Crazy Bill 80, he's at it again. Listen to this, Mitch. Just $175 for VSiN Pro Access from today through the Super Bowl.
It's a pretty damn good deal.
$175. That's every sport we cover every day at a special early bird price. The sooner sign up, the more you get out of it. Daily Best Bets email that Bill summarizes all the best bets from our expert hosts and guests. Real-time betting splits from Circa and from DraftKings. Live or on demand, watch the shows on VSiN and all the analytics tools that we offer. Go to vsin.com/subscribe now and lock in Bill 80's football special for just $175. That's vsin.com/subscribe.
Yeah, that pro betting guide coming out on July 1st is going to look super sharp when you take a peek at that. A lot of information, tons of bets, and a lot of the stuff will absolutely move between now, then, and the end of July, when people are starting to make a lot of the bets.
We're seeing win totals move already.
Sure, you said that yesterday you had to move the Vikings to the
8.5
regular
to
win.
9.5.
Yeah, and the Broncos to win the division came. You started plus 450
down to 350.
Yeah, pretty decent move there. All right, it's Follow the Money here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Up next, I will tell you what happened again yesterday, 7 times in Major League Baseball, tied for the second most in a single day in the history of the sport. And we'll get into the Braves-Mets game coming up a little bit later on tonight. The favorite flipped in the game. Does Mike agree with the line move? We'll ask him next.
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
Welcome in. We're live in downtown Vegas from the Circa Resort and Casino. In 15 minutes, I'll tell you about a bet that I like with Cooper Flagg, and I'm going to run down some of those names, by the way, of rookies to average at least 18 points. I was blown away. I thought the list was going to be like 5-6 guys. Way more than that. So here we head out to the Progressive Guest Line. Professional sports bettor Paul Stone joins the program. Paul, good afternoon. Thanks for the time today. How are you?
Man, doing well, guys. Good to be with you, and always good to see Mike Palm, as you know, the pride of Dubuque, Iowa. So good to be with you and Mike today.
Paul, I came out of the studio yesterday. A nice-looking couple in their early to mid-40s said they're staying at the Cosmo, but they Ubered down so they could meet me. And I tried to find out what's the connection. It's just that they're from Dubuque.
See, there you go. They know you and they love you. They ought to give you the key to the city or something. I don't know.
That's called Midwestern Nice, right? As
really
we experienced,
is.
We went back to Omaha a couple of weeks back. All right, Paul, let's get into the AAC and your approach, your best bets to that conference this year. We'll start with the win total that you like. It's UTSA. I want to go back briefly here and touch on what they did last year. They were 4-4 in league play, 7-6 overall, including the bowl game. They went 6-0 at home and 0-6 on the road, which is funky. So do you want to go over or under 7.5 wins this year?
Yeah, I'll tell you, first of all, my numbers are usually going to be quite close to the posted number, Mitch, but I actually made Texas San Antonio's total 8, juiced to the over at -1.25. And I'll tell you the reason for the discrepancy, in my opinion, is the fact that my numbers right now, and I make numbers on basically all the regular season games, in their 12 regular season games, I have 5 of those games currently lined at 5 or fewer points. So they have a large percentage of games that could go either way. But I just like this Texas San Antonio team. First of all, offense has certainly been head coach Jeff Traylor's calling card during his 5 previous seasons there in San Antonio. This year should be no different. They return a lot of proven experience there on the offensive side of the ball. Their offense certainly going to have to carry the day. If you look at some of these preseason publications, one preseason magazine shows UTSA with 11 returning offensive starters, 0 returning defensive starters. So they're going to be relying heavy on that offense. They return their quarterback. It'll be his second year as starter, left-handed Owen McCowan, the son of former NFL quarterback Josh McCowan. They return their top 3 rushers. They return 8 of their top 9 pass catchers, and they also return seven different offensive linemen who have started at least 9 games in a single season. So they got a lot of depth on that offensive line. They've averaged 31.9 points per game in each of the past 4 seasons. I think this is the AAC's best offense. I think they're going to be good for 35 points per game about on average. Just really like this team. They get both Tulane and Army at home. So that's certainly an advantage and certainly part of the process of handicapping these regular season win totals. I think this is an 8-4 team or better. I like Texas San Antonio to go over 7.5 regular season wins.
On the opposite side of the spectrum, you mentioned Tulane. That number at 8.5, under minus $1.14 at FanDuel. They finished second last year behind Army with only 1 loss in the conference, 9-5 overall, and outscored their opponents by over 200 points. But you're looking to fade the Green Wave.
Yeah, this is a Tulane team, Mike, that in each of the 3 previous regular seasons, they've won 9 games or more, but I think it's not going to happen this year, and it's because of significant personnel losses on the offensive side of the football, especially at the skill positions. Last year, this offense, man, it was prolific. Tulane averaged 35 points per game. But you look at those losses, first of all, you start with quarterback Darian Mensah, who transfers to Duke, goes into the portal, and leaves for Durham. Their 2-time first-team All-AAC running back, Mekhi Hughes, he gained almost a total of 2,800 yards in his first 2 seasons in New Orleans. He's off to Oregon. Their top 3 receivers, and not all these guys left through the portal, but their top 3 receivers are all gone. 126 catches last year, 2,100 yards, 12 touchdowns. So a lot of production there. And that production doesn't even include tight end Alex Bauman. He's a guy who caught 7 touchdown passes last year. He transferred to Miami, Florida in the offseason. And then their offensive line. They lost 3 guys who started at least 3 seasons. So they lost a 3-year starter, what I would call a 3.5-year starter, and a 4-year starter. Those guys all gone up front. So they're just not the same offense that they were last year. They're going to slip quite a bit, probably at least 10 points from that 35-point per game average. You look at their schedule, they're going to be a 6.5-point favorite, or currently are a 6.5-point favorite against Northwestern at home in their season opener. The next week they go to South Alabama. I think they'll be favored about 6.5 there. Then they host Duke in week 3. I think they're going to be favored by a field goal or less against Duke. And then in week 4, they go to Ole Miss, a game they're likely to lose. I think Tulane loses probably at least 2 non-conference games. During the conference schedule, they have back-to-back road games against UTSA and Memphis, got a home game against Army, all 3 of those games around midseason. I think 8-4. John Summerall is a great coach. 8-4 would be a great showing, I think, for Tulane, considering the offensive losses. Give me Tulane under 8.5 regular season wins.
All right, great analysis as always. Follow the money here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Our guest, Paul Stone, professional sports bettor, and he is on the Progressive guest line to win the league outright. We're going to go back to the team that you talked about to open up the segment here. You think UTSA is worth a bet?
I do. First of all, you need to shop around. These prices, I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but shop around, man. These prices can vary wildly. Be sure you're getting in the best price. And also be sure you know what you're betting on. I mean, you're betting on who's going to win the conference championship game, not who has the best regular season record in conference play. In the American Athletic Conference specifically, which we're looking at this week, it doesn't include divisions. So the 2 teams meeting in the conference championship game are going to be the 2 teams with the best regular season conference record. Last week I expressed my opinion that the transfer portal, I think they opened the door for non-favorites in these non-Power 4 leagues to perhaps contend for conference titles. So outside of the first 2 or 3 teams, I think the door is a little more wide open for teams beyond those teams to perhaps challenge for the conference title. And the reason is when these Power 5 schools, when they need to fortify their roster, when they need to get some depth or they need to find some starters, they're going to oftentimes go to the group of 5 schools. And when they look at those group of 5 schools, they're going to look at the best players on the best teams. Tulane's a great case in point. They got rated by the Power Five. So I think it just kind of compacts the league a little bit, if you will. It narrows the gap between the best team and the teams in the middle. So that's why I'm kind of looking at UTSA here, I am looking at UTSA. They're a team that's, picked about 4th in the league. You look at the quarterback situation at the top 4 finishers last year. First of all, league champion Army. They lose a pretty good quarterback, a bulldog of a guy. Bryson Daly rushed for 1,659 yards last year, 32 rushing touchdowns. He's out of eligibility. The second place team, Tulane, we've already mentioned that Mensah has transferred to Duke. The team that tied for 3rd, Memphis, they lose a 4-year starting quarterback in Seth Hennigan, so they lose a big-time quarterback. The only team in the top 4 with a returning quarterback is Navy, and they've got Blake Harvath back, a really good quarterback who closed the regular season and bowl season strong last year, rushed for 1,246 yards, led Navy to victories over Army, the regular season finale, and then Oklahoma in the bowl. Thought about Navy, but I like this plus 700 price at BetGM a little bit better on UTSA. They host both Tulane and Army. As I think I previously mentioned, they avoid Memphis in the conference schedule, and I like this UTSA team plus 700 at BetGM, MGM to win the AAC.
Very good. About a minute left here. Game of the year. Navy against Army, December 13th. What did you do with it?
Yeah, you can find this game -2.5, -115 there at FanDuel, and it's -3 at DraftKings, a traditional -110. But Army, they lose their do-everything quarterback again in Bryson Daly. Again, over 1,600 rushing yards, passed for over 1,000. That's a lot of production. He's gone to graduation. They were expected to have 2 guys back, though, that hit the transfer portal. So they lose their best returning offensive player, running back Kanye Udo, to Arizona State. He rushed for over 1,100 yards last season. They lose their best defender and linebacker, Elo Medozi. He goes to Georgia, 8 tackles for a loss, 6.5 sacks. So they lose a lot of top shelf talent. Navy's got about everybody back. They've got Harvath back. They're much better at the quarterback position. I just like this Navy team. I think they're going to be favored by more than 2.5 points come December 13th. I like the Middies -2.5 over Army.
Dynamite as always. Follow him on X at Paul Stone Sports. Thank you, buddy. We appreciate it.
Thanks a lot.
You,
appreciate
Paul.
it, guys.
Up next, a 35-1 shot on Cooper Flagg that isn't that far-fetched.
Follow the money. That's what I always say. You always follow the money. Yeah.
This is Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Paulie Howard on VSiN.
Great moments in history have begun with a question.
To be or not to be, that is the question.
What came first, the chicken or the egg?
Was it over when the Germans bombed Pearl Harbor?
And what kind of hair product does Mitch Moss use? But Follow the Money wants to know.
Do you concur? Concur with what, sir? Do you concur?
Welcome back. Mitch Moss along with Mike Paulman today for Paulie Howard. And tomorrow, yesterday, Michael Jacob deGrom, 7 innings, 1 hit, 7 Ks, 2.08 ERA on the year. Max Fried, 7 innings, 4 hits, no earned, 7 Ks, 1.92 ERA on the year. Hunter Brown today, magnificent, 7 innings of scoreless ball, 9 Ks, 1.74 ERA on the year. Eric Skubal is -150 to win the American League Cy Young. I think this award is far from over. Do you concur?
I concur. I also think Skubal should be an odds-on favorite for the way he's pitched, but you have a lot of other guys out there that are lurking around. Now, I'm not big on Crochet because I don't think he's pitched enough innings. Remember the White Sox babied him? I don't know if he can stretch out to 175 or 180 innings. We'll see. Remember the Red Sox took him out in the 6th inning of a tied game, a very important game. I think Brown is live. I think deGrom is live. I'm not sure about Framber because he had such a bad start after 8 games with an ERA over 5. But I think the others are very live. I hope, for God's sake, Hunter Brown is live, and I'm not praying just for something to go wrong with Skubal. But I concur with you. It ain't over.
You think Fried is live?
You know, when you look at Fried's underlying metrics, they're not quite up there with these other guys that are chasing. The record is there. I'm also a guy that thought Fried was a number 2 a very good number 2 guy. He didn't get to pitch with Cole, number 1 with him. I think that hurts him in the lineup to try to have to be a 1 in the rotations, but you can't complain about anything Max Fried's done. First time the Dodgers were a home dog in 3 years was when Max Fried pitched it.
Yeah, good. Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, okay. I didn't realize it was that long. We talked a lot about Cooper Flagg in the previous segment and bets that we kind of like at DraftKings. One that I absolutely do not recommend tying up money on is Cooper Flagg to win the NBA Rookie of the Year at minus $2. That's absurd. Do you concur?
I concur. I think it's also absurd to bet the Oklahoma City Thunder at plus $2 to win the NBA.
Totally agree.
If I'm going to lock up money for 13 months, it's certainly going to be something that pays 10 to 1 or better. Now, I get it if people have huge bankrolls and they're doing this professionally and they can put that money, but there's a cost to money as well. There's a definite cost to money and how much time it takes for a bet to happen. So I do concur.
You can find, countless bets between now and the beginning of the NBA season that are better than tying up your money for that long at minus $2. The Indiana Fever opened up as 10.5 or 11-point favorites tonight at home against the LA Sparks. However, Caitlin Clark, since then, has been ruled out. The line moved, good 4.5, 5.5 points. And the Fever, last check, between, 5.5 or 6-point favorites tonight. Not enough of a move. You concur?
I do not concur. I think it's too much of a move.
They're going to be fine without her?
Well, how can they replace 1 of 10 from 3 and 5 points and 7 turnovers? Because that's what she's been averaging her last 3 games, Mitch. She's obviously still hurt. I said this on Sunday, and now they sit her tonight. What a ridiculous. They go on a 3-game West Coast trip, and now they come home for a quick stop and then a back-to-back in Dallas tomorrow. The WNBA schedule, everything is so janky about this. AAA baseball is run better. But she's not playing well right now. There's a lot of issues surrounding in the periphery. Everything's going on, including DeWanna Bonner leaving. Her coach keeps taking leaves of absences. I don't think she's in a good place with her head, and she's not playing very well right now. A peak Caitlin Clark, I would say 4.5, 5 points is not enough. In her current form, I say it's too much.
Wow, okay.
Aaliyah Boston right now is the MVP of that team.
She's been very good. She came back and had that amazing game against the Liberty.
It was a great moment for the WNBA.
Clark did, for
Yes.
sure. And since then, just not the same.
Been awful.
I was out of town, but I was surprised over the weekend, and I would have lost money on this, so thank God I was out of town. I was surprised the Aces were favored against the Fever. But that was one of those games in which she was dreadful, and the Aces pulled away in the second half.
It closed Fever 1. The Fever Fever took money. But did you also know this stat? The Fever, and she's only been there a year and a bit, but the Fever haven't beaten the Aces since like 2017. They've won 15 straight against the Fever.
Okay, pure domination.
Yeah.
All right, ESPN announced this week that comedian Shane Gillis will host the ESPYs this year. It's going to be on July 16th. I have not been this excited to watch this show since Norm Macdonald hosted back in 1998. Do you concur?
No, I don't concur because I don't share your level of excitement. I saw this guy on Saturday Night Live, but I'm not really familiar with his work. I agree. I concur about Norm Macdonald. But didn't you think Peyton Manning was very, very good hosting this show?
I don't know. I didn't watch.
Oh, you didn't watch?
I honestly think that Norm Macdonald was one of the last years that I ever watched the ESPYs.
Basically, you're not interested in the ESPYs.
Not really, because
you'd only tune in for the comedy.
When I would tune in occasionally, it's like this is not my cup of tea.
Okay.
And Norm Macdonald is maybe my favorite comedian of all time. So, and his set that year is still iconic and talked about. And athletes have, they have no thick skin whatsoever.
Reggie Bush wasn't happy.
No. And he wasn't the only one, right? It goes back beyond him, and it's just like, I don't think we're ever going to see that ever again from a comedian at the ESPYs. But now you have my attention, and I'll be honest. Like, a buddy of mine tried to put me on Shane Gillis like 5 years ago, and I went over to his house. We're watching some of the stand-up, and I'm like, this is not that great. But this guy has since absolutely worn on me. I think he's fantastic, and his appearance on SNL. Whenever that was, I forget, but it
2 months ago.
Yeah, it was that was one of the best SNL appearances. In that brought me back to my love of SNL when I was much younger and much more impressionable, and those great casts back in the late 80s and early 90s. That's how good that episode was.
Yeah, I thought it was good, but I don't know of his other work, so I haven't watched his stand-up. But I guess I'll watch now based off your heavy recommendation. I'll tape it and watch it off your heavy recommendation.
He has some really solid stand-up. The Edmonton Oilers traded Evander Kane to the Vancouver Canucks. The Oilers' window to win a cup is closing or closed? Do you concur?
Is the second part of that statement supposed to be because of the first part of that statement?
It's tied into getting as far as they did the last 2 years and not winning.
No, I'm not. I'm going to not concur because I think this was a good move for them. They need to get some money. I think they're going after John Gibson.
Okay.
I think that Gibson's going to be on the market. Dostal is now clearly the number one with this Ducks team. I love this Ducks team, by the way. I got a little... Oh, I should have put that in the pizzeria. 100-1 on the Ducks to win the cup. But everybody's window's closing. I don't think it's closing any more so for Edmonton, and I think they're making the right moves to try to go out and get a goalie that can get them over the top.
Well, that goalie would be... I need to see it, right? First, to believe it.
Yeah.
But clearly that's the number one move that they have to make in the offseason. And on that note, they announced this, right? An 84-game NHL season is part of the CBA talks. Completely unnecessary. Do you concur?
From the fans' perspective, 100% I concur. Well, what's the point of another 2 games? But you know that the house revenue is a big part of the NHL. What these we know that from dealing with the Blackhawks, and how having a home game on a Tuesday is worth $1.2 million more than having a home game on a Saturday compared to a Tuesday. So I get it from the owner's perspective, but from a fan perspective, do you really need to see 2 more games? Is that going to help you whittle down to get the best teams in the 16-team playoff?
My whole thought was, what's the point?
I thought it was a joke. My friend texted me, NHL going to 84 games. I said, what was this, a proposal? He's like, oh no, it's happening. And my question was, why?
Why?
Yeah.
Why is it happening? However, teams are now allowed to play up to 32 games during the regular season of college basketball. This I like. You concur?
I do like this. I think it allows for more flexibility in the scheduling for these teams, and I think it allows teams to take a little more chances in some of their, let's say, interregional matchups, because they can still get to these certain win totals that they want to get to, and not just all cupcakes, so that they can, get to their 25 or 27 wins.
Maybe we can slot in, the regular season rivalries that have kind of been lost over the years, right? Maybe we can get Kentucky, Indiana every year, for example.
That would be great.
Or something along those lines. There you go. Do you concur? But what do you have for score in this Giants game?
10-5 now. We would have went
so
over
they
the
go over.
We would have went over the 14.5, and then still hitting, and the Marlins are still hitting.
So not a good week here, or a good series for the Giants, on the verge of getting swept by the Marlins, and not a good week for the Philadelphia Phillies, as they were swept by the Houston Astros, and they were outscored in that series 5-1. Can you imagine that? Philly starters went 19 2/3. They allowed 3 earned runs the entire time, and they did not pick up a win.
Scratched out the run in the top of the 8th inning today to not get blanked for the whole series in Houston.
What kind of a sign is that for the Astros pitching moving forward?
Well, it bodes well for the Astros, and like you say, they just keep to roll up wins here. It was a nice series as the Marlins continue to score now 11-5. More concern, obviously, on the Philly part. They got 3 great starting performances and walk away 0-3 in that series.
Mm-hmm. That's rough. That's a rough one to swallow right there. Also, if you have, and I know somebody who has the Rays for the most wins in the month of June, they are 1 back. They're blistering hot. The team that they're 1 game back of, Houston. Tampa wins like every day, and everything that we just talked about happened with Philadelphia, and he can't get 1 Houston loss.
That's tough. That's a tough way to wrap up the month. What were the odds on Tampa?
I think 28-1.
Playing as well as anyone.
1 game tonight in Major League Baseball. We'll discuss Braves and the Mets, and the Braves starter Grant Holmes has hit this mark in 10 out of 15 starts already on the year. I'll tell you what it is next.
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
Pretty nice card this weekend, UFC 317 here in Las Vegas. We head out now to the Progressive Guest Line as Lou Finocchiaro joins the program. He has the Bout Business podcast. He's on X at GamLou, does his weekly write-ups as well on the website here at vsin.com. Good afternoon, Uncle Lou. Thanks for the time today. How are you?
I'm doing great. Mitch, Michael, thank you so much for having me on today.
Let's begin with the main event here. Charles Oliveira, a plus 360 dog here, and I think he was higher than that in recent days, taking on Topuria, who was priced around minus 470, maybe even a little bit lower, I guess, in some spots based on the movement there. But anything for you here on the main event?
This will be the smallest of the bets we talk about this afternoon, Mitch. I think that Topuria, who moves up from featherweight, was undergoing tremendous difficulty making that weight, is going to be fighting at a weight way more comfortable. Anywhere you read or look, this is Topuria being a brand new lawn boy and his opponent Oliveira being spring grass, and the lawn boy is just going to roll right over him. I don't see the fight exactly like that. I believe Topuria should be a favorite. He opened 300. I think the line's gotten out of hand. Oliveira also came from 145, but some years ago, and he's a longer, more structured athlete. He carries the weight a little bigger, and he's the more legitimate lightweight, I'll say, just because of his time in the division. He's durable, strong. He's beaten the best except Makhachev, and I think he's there to try and win this fight. The way I think I'd like to make a bet that favors Oliveira is to look at that over 1.5, even fight to start round 2, where you can get outside of Las Vegas. That's a plus 100. I feel strongly that Oliveira will do better than most think. I just don't think he's going to be able to win this fight.
Let's go to the co-main event, the title fight in the flyweight division between the belt holder Alexander Pantoja and Kai Kara-France. Obviously, the champ is the favorite, Lou.
Yeah, Mike, and there's a story here. 9 years ago, these guys were in The Ultimate Fighter together. Then France was 23, met Pantoja in the final. Pantoja entered, and everyone knew he was the lion, and he was the one that was going to win this thing, or at least the one to beat. And in that final, Pantoja won a decision. He had taken Kara-France down a few times. Kara-France bounced right up. Since then, 9 years have passed. Now, Pantoja's 35, Kara-France 32. As soon as that fight, Kara-France went to work with Eugene Behrman at City Kickboxing, arguably the most renowned mixed martial arts gym in the world. And so Kara-France is coming back into this fight, the full-grown man that he fought 9 years ago, and Pantoja, who is versed and talented, is sitting atop a division that is paper thin. Even Kara-France is 1-2 in his last fights, but he's got power, will, and takedown ability, and he's coming into a rematch. I think there's a lot of story to tell for Kara-France, especially when you consider how easy it is for Pantoja to get hit. He's too willing to take shots, and he's somewhat of an undersized flyweight. I like Kara-France plus the 200.
All right, very good. Follow the money here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Our guest, Lou Finocchiaro, Bout Business Podcast, and at GamLou on X. Again, his write-ups are on a weekly basis, can be found at vsin.com. How about flyweight here? Joshua Van, a small favorite against Brandon Royval.
I think there's as much story with this fight as the last, and this one revolves around Royval, who's fought for the championship, but seems to, for whatever reason, get constantly disrespected. But he's legit, although he's long and gangly and awkward. In walks this opponent that's supposed to take the world by storm, Joshua Van. He's 23, and the big story that I'm hearing is that he just had a fight 3 weeks ago. But if you peel the onion back a little further, this is going to be his 7th fight in 6 months. That is too much work. He's 23. He doesn't know it. This is a PhD in MMA fight. Royval is too pedigreed, and there are levels to this. Van will find out Saturday night that he's trying to pack 5 pounds of manure in a 2-pound bag, and he needs to rest a little bit. This is a really nice spot for Royval.
All right, then we have Beneil Dariush taking on Renato Moicano, Lou.
Couple of 36-year-old guys that the winner stays relevant and the loser, arguably goes down to somewhat gatekeeper post. Everyone knows Moicano because he's been so vivacious, and he has totally turned on his media darling presence, knowing that social media is how to get fights and how to get fans. And he's been a lightning rod for publicity and popularity. But he's going to fight a guy that is as good a grappler as he is, as good a striker as he is, and has a little bit more power than he. And I think Moicano's getting recency activity. And this fight opened Beneil Dariush plus a 150 or so, come down to close to pick him. Dariush, I believe, is the right side in this fight, and I'm looking forward to taking him at any kind of plus price.
Oh, very good. Okay, so then what do you want to do with Price and Smith? That would be a plus money bet as well.
Yeah, and here's a guy in Smith, this Kobe Smith, and he's got it all. I mean, if he just looks at you, you go down. And he's a minus 2,100 in this fight. All I'm trying to do here is give Price a little bit of credit for the vast amount of experience, size, and length that he's going to have in this fight. He also knows he's being set up as a patsy. For this fight to start round 2, you get plus money on Price. I think he can do that, and I'll hope he's Forresting run for 5 minutes of this fight just to hear that bell for round 2.
All right, Gregory Rodriguez is a big favorite, higher than $2 against Jack Hermanson here in the middleweight fight on UFC 317 coming up this weekend. And again, you're trying to find plus money on Rodriguez, yeah?
I'm just trying to find plus money, and I think the best way to handle this fight, I see a lot of people that I respect on Hermanson, and I just don't get it. He doesn't like to be bullied, and this RoboCop is this big, huge, oversized Brazilian with unbelievable power in his hands, and he can grapple a good deal. Hermanson is a grappler. I don't think Hermanson can get him down, and I don't think Hermanson's going to like being backed up. I think this is a one-sided RoboCop whooping, and for that reason, RoboCop inside the distance via any finish plus 140. I think I like that bet quite a bit.
I think if you have the nickname RoboCop, right, you have to be like one of the baddest dudes on the planet, period.
He can slow in the third round and get caught. He's right up there with that chin. But Hermanson doesn't have the power or the striking to be able to expose him in this fight, in my opinion.
Overall, how would you grade the card in terms of entertainment value on Saturday?
Outstanding. Listen, the UFC puts on 44 to 46 cards a year that keeps me employed. I'm never going to criticize a card. And for this one, which is their banner card of the year, they've done all they can to get everybody in there. They had to get in there. The only omission, obviously, is the heavyweights, Tom Aspinall and Jones. And that's another story for another day.
You know, I was hanging out this past weekend with a bunch of UFC fans. One guy covers the sport, and we were kind of kicking that around, like, how good is this event? And they were like, oh, this card is awesome on Saturday.
Going to be totally entertaining, and I think it's going to be riddled with violence. Make sure you tune in and catch the early prelims, too.
Follow him on X at GamLou. You can read him every week at vsin.com. Thanks, Uncle Lou. We appreciate that.
Thanks so much for having me on, guys. Have a great rest of the show.
Thank you for coming on with
Lou
us.
Lou Finicaro was on the Progressive guest line. Yeah, they do this is like their banner event, like you said.
It's International Fight Week.
It is, yeah, which I've been to once.
Oh, really?
I went to it. A childhood friend of mine was in town. Kind of lost touch over the years, came back. Huge UFC fan. My dad was in town. His dad was in town. We're like, want to go check it out? And it was not a disappointment at all. It was absolutely worth the time to go out there and check it out for like a half of a day that we were there.
They are tremendous productions.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Yeah, you're going to usually get your money's worth overall. I mean, but he always is trying to find plus money. And there he just ran down, I think, 6 bets in different ways to bet some of these cards or some of the fights overall in the card. So have you been to a UFC card?
I have not.
Have you been to the Slap?
Once.
And?
I'm glad I went.
Okay.
And I check it off the list, just like EDC. I'm glad I went, and it's checked off the list.
Go to a UFC card sometime.
Right.
They're great to be at in person.
I want to go to one when it's at the Sphere. How about that?
They're probably never going to do that ever again. So you had your chance, Cal. We'll get to in-pocket plays coming up next on Follow the Money. It's VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.